After a win at the greatest setting in college football, the Buckeyes return to the greatest stadium in college football. From an opponent that parks their yachts to an opponent who rows the boat. Home sweet home prime time, where the lights are bright and the Gophers are golden.
Third down, and it's picked off!
Minnesota comes to the shoe with a 3-1 record, but a 12-game losing streak against the Scarlet and Gray. It's homecoming weekend, and the Buckeyes have a late curfew. Ohio State, Minnesota. The football fever starts right now. Welcome to another Full House edition here in the studio of The Football Fever. I'm Dave Holmes, joined in studio by everyone. Former Buckeyes, Ben Buchanan, Obi Stillwell, Jay Richardson, along with Kelly Ann Stitz. We're all in studio because the shoe is empty right now for that 7:30 kickoff tonight against Minnesota. Ben, the fans want more games in prime time. They get one tonight, albeit against Minnesota. It's kind of get what you asked for, not quite.
I heard they wanted more noon games. You heard something different, right?
You're not on the apps I'm on.
Maybe
I guess. All right.
Nice.
As players, you guys know this as well. We used to call them kind of the sleepy nooners. You know, you roll out of bed and the shoe's a little more quiet, and thus it's a sleepy nooner. All credit and respect to Fox Big Noon, but it seems to be a Fox Big letdown, right? When we see that on the schedule, as we've seen. But 7:30 in the shoe tonight is going to be a great night for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Love the way that Julian Sayin is throwing the football. For me, who I'm keying in on tonight, guys, Jeremiah Smith. This could be a Heisman-type game for him. You look at his stats this year: 28 receptions, 396, 14.1 yards per reception, and yet it still leaves something to be desired. We feel like there's still something in the tank. I think this could be a Heisman night for Jeremiah Smith, but great pulse in the stadium tonight. Looking forward to primetime, Dave. That's what we want to see the Buckeyes playing in primetime.
Primetime much better when the weather is like this. This hits a lot better than late November primetime.
Sure.
So, Obi, the Buckeyes coming off that big road win. You were there with me when they held the Huskies, the number 2 ranked offense in the country. To just 6 points. They ended that school record 22-game winning streak as well. So how do you refocus when you have all that intensity and now you come home on a 24-point favorite?
Yeah, I think it's fairly easy because the mission is still ahead of you, right? Big Ten and national championship. That is the goal. But I think one of the things as far as the Buckeyes and just their defense, if you will, is you always, number one, the saying is, defense wins championships, right? But there's another saying that says, does your defense travel? And I think that's what the Buckeyes came out of this game with, understanding, with the knowledge that, hey, the defense does travel. And I don't know. I mean, even the personality of this team, I know we talked a little bit about Jeremiah Smith and how great he is. I think this is a defensive Buckeye team. They're going to win through their defense. They may not win through their offense. Yeah, maybe it will explode, kind of like what you're saying today. Maybe Jeremiah Smith will have a Heisman, game. I haven't seen it yet. I think the Heisman could possibly come from a defensive side. It would not surprise me, especially if they gave Caleb Downs a little more, gave him some play on the punt return, gave him some play on the offensive side of the ball. The Heisman could come from the defensive side. So,
well, you can make a case that their 2 big wins, Washington and Texas, were more about Ohio State's defense than offense. We're going to talk about that coming up later in the show. So, Jay, Minnesota comes into this game 3-1. Golden Gophers with wins against Buffalo, Northwestern State, Rutgers, okay. Their loss was against California. All right, so is there anything that worries you about a 3-1 Gopher team?
Not at all, honestly, Dave. There's nothing
I love the honesty. Don't
straight
through it.
Hey, guys, there's a reason they were scheduled for homecoming, okay? And it's not because they're world beaters. Here's what I'll say. They got a big 6'5", 235-pound freshman named Drake Lindsey, and I think this kid is a very, very accurate passer. 78% completion last week against Rutgers, and the kid threw for over 330 yards. So he can throw from the pocket. This is the top 30 offense in the country. They can score points. They can move the football. The problem is they're going against Matt Patricia and probably the best secondary in college football led by Caleb Downs. And when you have that matchup, there's not much you can do when it comes to trying to manufacture points in the quick game. You got to try to get some underneath stuff if you're Minnesota. You got to spread things out, get things to this kid, Jalen Smith, and maybe get him going. He's an explosive freshman, had a 78-yard catch and run last week. The kid's really, really fast, and I think that's something that, again, Dave, doesn't scare me, but it's just something that could make the game interesting and, I hate to say watchable, but I just think when you look at this defense and the way they're playing, and Obi hit on it, this is a defensive football team. I'm very, very curious to see if Ryan Day and Brian Hartline can get some things going offensively in the first quarter. The one thing that you haven't seen from Ohio State is an explosive first quarter where they come out foot on the gas and they're very, very aggressive. I love the attack last week with Bo Jackson and CJ just running the football. That might be maybe the thing that unlocks Jeremiah Smith, guys, and maybe gets him going. But at the end of the day, you want to see a very fast script for this offense. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing.
It'd be a good game to come out scoring out of the gate, get up by a couple touchdowns. But this defense has just been so impressive through the first 4 games. And against Washington, that was number 2 scoring offense. And Washington should be a good team. That's what's been so impressive just about this defense this year. And one thing I love about this team specifically is, guys, they're still very hungry. They've put that national championship in the past. Ryan Day talked about this week how they have that chip on their shoulder. They wake up, they are hungry, they are motivated. You see that in practice. And this team is still forming its identity, but they have an edge to them and this competitiveness to them that's really exciting.
We have so many questions going into the season coming off that national championship, but they're 4-0. We had 2 new coordinators. Brian Hartline had that role at one time, similar-ish, but new Matt Patricia, new quarterback in Julian Sayin, almost the entire defense new. So I'm curious, guys, at the quarter pole here of the season, 4-0, we assume there's going to be 14, 15, 16 games this season. Is there something that surprises you that we've learned about these Buckeyes?
I'll say this. I think they are not as aggressive offensively as I thought they would be heading into the season with the weapons, with Tate and Smith and with the running backs and the offensive line. I mean, you can talk about Severfeld has not given up a pressure this entire game. I'm sorry, this entire season. So when you have that, I think to myself, man, I think Ryan Day, guys, knows he has a young quarterback, doesn't want to put him in any bad positions, and he's really thinking to himself, I can lean on this defense, kind of like what Obi said earlier. I can lean on this defense, lean on our secondary, our whole unit, and we don't have to really put, our young guys saying in any kind of hot water yet. And I think that's the plan. Maybe it gets aggressive later on in the season, but it's going to be a slow start, it seems like.
Jay, but I feel like we saw that last year, guys. With even with an experienced quarterback, Will Howard, it took some time to build that chemistry. Julian's been very impressive out of the gate, but I think to your point, a younger quarterback just letting it mesh. But it's nice that they can rely on the defense.
I think what surprised me is the defense, that the defense has not allowed a touchdown in the red zone.
No,
I did not think the Buckeyes, after losing all they lost, would come back that strong. But there's an attitude on that thing, Kelly, just what you were speaking of. And, even I look at Lorenzo Styles Jr., right? He's a player that has kind of went through Notre Dame, kind of switched positions. He always plays with like a chip on his shoulder. I almost got in trouble because I sat with Pat Chun at Washington in the athletic suite, and I started to cheer. When I started to cheer.
Which team?
No cheering.
Which team were you cheering for? Obi? You're in Washington suite.
I actually clapped when Lorenzo Styles Jr. made this tackle on the sidelines. And but when you look at that and that attitude, and he plays with this chip on his shoulder, I think each position kind of plays with this we're not proven yet type of mentality. And I think the psychology of that, to implement that into this team, that surprised me that defense has that type of personality.
One thing that surprised me, Dave, is you talk about the special units. You have to be great in all 3 phases. Brandon Inniss putting the ball on the turf, obviously believe in him, thinks he's going to have a big comeback game today. Not punting the ball as effectively. Jaden Fielding has been good thus far, but a great special team football team. You look back to Jim Tressel, Urban Meyer, Ryan Day. That's a commonality you see. You have to be great in all 3 phases. To be a championship team, have to be good in the special units.
Yeah, Jaden Fielding. Don't want him making tackles today. That was a one-time thing, Jaden. Hey, coming up next here on The Football Fever, he's pulling ahead as the leader of a committee. How Bo Jackson's electric performances have propelled him to the head of a hungry running back pack. Stay with us.
Welcome back. In the Atlas Butler offensive checkup, the California kid is receiving praise from an unlikely source. Diehard Michigan fan and proud Buckeye hater Dave Portnoy actually giving credit where credit is due, saying he's very impressed with how Julian Sayin is performing this season. And who wouldn't be impressed? Sayin's poise in the noise has helped him add to his impressive start through the Buckeyes' first 4 games. 987 yards passing for 10 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions. He's also very accurate, saying it's completing nearly 78% of his passes, still the best completion percentage in college football. We can't say enough good things about this young signal caller. Ben, he's only a redshirt freshman, but he looks like and plays like a quarterback much older with much more experience.
Yeah.
What do you see for Julian Sayin so far?
It's amazing. He's really living up to the hype, and there was a lot of hype when you talk about Julian Sayin coming out of high school, #1 quarterback recruit in his class by many of the football outlets there. But what I see from Julian Sayin is, #1, he's poised. You're right. We call him the Cali kid. He doesn't take the highs too highs, doesn't take the lows too lows. And to me, Obi, that's the mark of a great quarterback, is you're going to be very even keeled. And we're seeing that from #10, Julian Sayin. Seeing him really pass the test in a very hostile environment. I know you were out there this past week at Washington. That stadium, man, did that bring the noise. He had the poise and the noise. I thought he looked great in the post-game interview with Coach Ryan Day. Ryan being sure to compliment him, but also not too much because there is still some growth to come. But very impressed with his accuracy. He has the quick release, throws a very catchable football. He's great throwing the ball downfield. He just looks like a very complete quarterback thus far. The 10 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions, almost 1,000 yards. Can't ask for much better thus far.
Complete quarterback and a very mature one at 20 years old now. Sayin has been spreading the ball around with 6 different Buckeyes, catching touchdowns, passes, but we also want to see the #4 get the ball some more. Take a look at Jeremiah Smith's stats through the first 4 games last year compared to this year. Last season, JJ had 19 catches for 364 yards and 5 touchdowns through the first 4 games. This season, he actually has more receiving yards through the first 4 games, but he also has nearly double the amount of receptions compared to last year with 1 less touchdown. So, Obi, JJ is still Julian's top target, and he's receiving more attention this season than last year. But do you feel that Brian Hartline needs to scheme up some more ways to get JJ the ball more?
Yeah, you're going to have to, it's kind of challenging for a brand new offensive coordinator who's taken on this task, right? But you have to figure out a way how to get the ball to Jeremiah Smith. It's not just receptions. It's how many times is he touching the ball, period. Stop looking at just, we got to figure out how to throw him the ball. How do we get him the ball? And, and also, how do you gauge a player on, last year it was kind of his come out year, right? So people didn't know. Now they know, right? Now they know he's the man. What do you do and how do you perform when they know that the ball is coming to you? And Brian Hartline has to figure out a way, Coach Ryan Day has to figure out a way to get him more touches. I remember in college, there's a guy, Ant, we used to play Madden, and he'd start pounding his foot because he'd get up by 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns, and he'd say, "You know what I'm doing, but you can't stop it." Right? It would be so frustrating. It was like, you know what I'm doing, but you can't stop it. That's where we should be with Jeremiah Smith. That's what Ryan Day and Brian Hartline should be with Jeremiah Smith. Hey, you know what we're doing, but you can't stop it because we got the best player in the country. I'm waiting to see that.
Because it's a balance, and you don't want to put him in a bad position where you're trying to force the ball to #4, but there is a way to get in the ball more, right?
Absolutely.
Now, of course, the Buckeyes want a balanced attack. For more on how the Buckeyes are using the ground game to establish their air raid offense, we'll send things over to Dave and Jay. Take it away, guys.
Yeah, get Obi some tea with honey in it. My goodness, the pipes. All right, so Jay, we started the year with a 2-headed monster at running back, James Peoples and C.J. Donaldson, Sonic and Knuckles. But Bo Jackson is emerging now as the lead back in this offense. So what do you think the coaches are seeing that makes them confident to tuck it in the belly of a true freshman?
Oh, Dave, they're seeing a lot. Now, first of all, we go from Sonic and Knuckles to I don't even know what you want to call Bo Jackson. You'll come up with something. Here's what I see. I see a kid that has elite vision. I think with this kid, it all starts with his vision and with his feet and how he finishes runs. So Ohio State has a few different schemes when it comes to running. They like to do some zone stuff. They'll also do straight man-on-man power. They'll do some counters. And when you see that, you usually see CJ near the goal line with some of those powers and counters. Well, with Bo Jackson, you can kind of run any of that stuff. The kid's feet are unbelievable. His jump cuts, his lateral quickness, and then the way he finishes runs, he just explodes. I think the writing was on the wall right after that Grambling game when you saw that interview with Jeremiah Smith, and they asked him about Bo Jackson. He said, man, I trained with this kid in the offseason. I saw it, and I've been kind of waiting to see when we were going to see it. When your head coach hears his best players say that about a third-string running back, right away you know he's about to get more touches. The main guy has kind kind of giving him the stamp. And then sure enough, the following week he gets more touches. Last week, even more touches, and he just continues to get better every week. This is a kid that I predicted a few weeks ago that he'd probably end up being RB1. Didn't start last week, but when he got in there, his presence was felt. He's too good of a player to keep on the bench. Ryan Day knows that. And the offense, Dave, it just looks better in the running game. I mean, everything looks more fluid. I'm not saying the guys block harder for him, but he makes them look better up front when he gets the football. I think that's the key.
Yeah, it's rare to be a true freshman and get the running back totes at Ohio State, but it's not unheard of. We saw it with Maurice Clarett, one of your guys back in the day. We saw it J.K. Dobbins busted out early, and Bo Jackson looks like he's following suit there. But how is he getting this much space to put up these impressive performances on the ground? Kellyanne Stitz has the answer to that question.
Yeah, Dave, the 5 guys up front paving the way for Bo Jackson, C.J. Donaldson, and James Peoples has set the tone this season. Those guys are playing with an edge in the trenches. Head coach Ryan Day was impressed with how those 5 starters handled that hostile environment in Washington, treating it like pros. Now, that includes Luke Montgomery, who earned Offensive Player of the Game honors, along with center Carson Hinsman. I asked Luke about that recognition and more. Take a listen.
I didn't really expect it, to be honest with you. As an offensive lineman, we just kind of do our jobs and kind of stay in the shadows and stuff like that. So it was good, but I think our Coach Bone wasn't very happy about it because we just do our jobs and go about it. So I get that, but it was good, and I think a lot of other guys deserved it as much as I did. So hopefully they get their shots in the next couple of weeks.
Ryan Day mentioned keeping the poise in the noise, and you guys clearly did that with able to communicate through that raucous environment. He mentioned your preparation and how you approached the bye week helped. What was your preparation heading into Washington?
I think we approach every day like it's a game, and that helped us a lot. And obviously being poised in a moment, we knew that going into a hostile environment like that, there's going to be ups and flows and stuff like that happens. And during that first couple drives, that something to go our way, but those next 4 to 5, I think we scored on them. And it's just having confidence and poise and knowing that we're just chilling. It's fine. It's just a game.
What has led to the success of the offensive line this year?
Yeah, I think just the unit, how close we are, and we love going to work every day. And then obviously just hats off to our defense because they're the best in the country, and it helps going against them every day. But I say, and Coach Bowen and Coach Day always say, once you think you're someone, you're nobody. So we like being the no names, like Caden Curry said. Just as a unit, we're just going to continue to work and keep our head down.
You guys have helped pave the way for Bo Jackson, the true freshman, to shine at running back. What have you seen from him in practice? Are you impressed by his performance so far?
I think it's also just CJ and James done a good job just bringing him along, him and Zay and Sam, and so it's been a lot of fun to see those guys just compete. And Bo just goes about his business. He's really quiet, and you don't really know when he's in sometimes as offensive lineman because you're just always looking at the D-line and stuff like that. You don't really know who's in a running back, but he can go. He's got sky's the limit for him, and he's a great player.
Luke, I know you guys don't have much time outside of football, but for people to get to know you better, what do you enjoy outside of football if you have that time?
Yeah, I'm pretty adventurous. I really like fishing. I'm a big animal guy, so I've kind of been looking into getting a reptile or something soon.
Oh, what
I don't
kind?
know yet. I don't know, a gecko or something like that.
Okay.
I want a dog, but I just don't think it wouldn't be fair for right now. I don't have time for one, so.
I think a gecko would be a little bit more manageable.
Probably manageable, or a fish or something. I don't know, but I'd like to get something.
What about a name?
Oh, I don't know. It's a great question. Probably like Rango from remember the gecko movie? The gecko movie? Something like that.
Well, Luke, Rango, and Ohio State's offensive line are off to a hot start. They've allowed some of the fewest tackles for loss and the fewest sacks in all of college football so far this season. And left tackle Austin Sarabald is the only tackle in the FBS to not allow a single pressure this season. Part of the reason for their success, of course, is their health. Everybody knocking the table. Last season, the Buckeyes O-line had to overcome a lot of adversity, and they still prevailed to a national championship. Ben, this is a major confidence booster for this offense this season, this offensive line playing so well.
Yeah, you have to be strong up front. We're seeing that with the 2025 Buckeyes. Luke Montgomery, one of the many great ones, Austin Sarabald, Carson Hinsman, so many of the guys that are paving the way for James Peoples, C.J. Donaldson, and Bo Jackson. So what I'm seeing this year is they're playing with great rapport, they're playing with great poise, they're a very disciplined unit, and most importantly, as you guys know, they're playing as one, right? Not a lot of individuals doing their own thing on the offensive line. They're moving the line of scrimmage together, and they're just imposing their will. Really quality. I think we said, 4 out of the 5 guys from the state of Ohio.
Yeah.
I love that when your big guys up front are clearing the way, just Midwestern homegrown guys right here in the great state of Ohio. I loved what he said, guys. Luke Montgomery, once you think you're someone, you're nobody. That's a word right there. Talking about the humility factor going into that. They're fine being the no names out there on that field, but make no mistake about it, they're some of the most important people on that football field. And so credit to Luke, credit to Tyler Bowen from Virginia Tech. I mean, they're obviously responding to his coaching this year, doing well up front, starting off 2025.
Oh, go ahead.
No pre-snap penalties. Like,
oh, you love that. I know.
The least
You love
that
that.
we've seen in an
Absolutely.
Ohio State season is so cool to me.
And that's important. Now, for the 5 Ohioans starting on the offensive line includes Cincinnati native Phillip Daniels, who's facing his former team today, so I'm sure he'll come with a little extra juice today against Minnesota. Now, coming up after the break, we break down the two-headed monster on the defensive line named Caden. They may spell their names a little differently, but Caden Curry and Caden McDonald are becoming a potent duo on the D-line.
I know it's so early in the season, but if this defense is better than the national championship defense we just saw at last year, I mean, when you look at the production that we're getting from everybody at every position, and then can't forget to talk about, you know, one of the best players in the country, Arvell Reese, being so dominant, I think it's worth having a discussion. In my opinion, I will go ahead and say this defense is better than last year's defense. Although it's this early in the season, everything that we're seeing, and on top of that, Matt Patricia, the game plan that he's calling and the position that he's putting these guys in, I got to say it, I'm there.
In the great words of Lee Corso, not so fast. I'm not ready to stamp that yet. Is this defense really good? I think.
Bold words from Beanie Wells on this week's episode of The Script. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. Now, the former OSU running back says this year's defense is better than the national champion unit from a year ago. Through the first 4 games, these Silver Bullets have only allowed 22 total points. Only Texas and Ohio U were able to find the end zone. Washington limited to 2 field goals, and Grambling put up a goose egg. The Buckeyes lead the country in points allowed. They're top 5 in yards allowed. So let's compare that to the first 4 games of last season. The Buckeyes allowed a total of 27 points. Marshall and Michigan State both found the end zone. Akron managed a pair of field goals, and Western Michigan went full Grambling and didn't score at all. So the big difference, though, is who the Buckeyes will play down the stretch, because this year's team hasn't faced that murderer's row that we saw last year's title winners go through to win it all. So many talking heads, though, thinking that this defense is propping up a team that could go back-to-back.
I think Ohio State looks like a team that's going to play for the national championship. You? You remember watching Usain Bolt run the 100?
Yeah.
And he was the fastest, but it looked like he was running the easiest. Remember that? And like everybody else is like, like this, and he's just kind of gliding through the line, looking back at people. That's what Ohio State feels like to me right now, because they haven't even.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's been a good start to the season if your name is Caden Curry, Caden McDonald, to become a force to be reckoned with on the D-line. So, Jay, these guys epitomize something Cardale Jones said on this week's podcast. Buckeyes don't rebuild, they reload. They've just been waiting in the wings, and lo and behold, here they are.
I hate having to agree with Cardale.
Yeah.
Me and that dude go at it. That's my dude, though. But he's not wrong. Okay, so the Buckeyes have reloaded, and I know we'll get into some things later on about the differences in these two defenses, but what we saw last week from both the Cadens was absolute dominance, especially Caden Curry. I mean, this kid, when you look at him, I was telling the crew, when you look at him, he looks like a truck driver. Like, he does not look the same as your prototypical next-level defensive end. He's 6'3", 260. Reminds you more of like a John Simon. You cut the tape on, he's kicking the hell out of everybody. And he's doing it with leverage, low pads, and just playing instinctual football. I mean, there were times where he went unblocked, and sometimes when a guy goes unblocked, his feet stop because he's expecting contact. He doesn't get it. Not Caden's. He goes unblocked, he takes off, goes and gets a sack. Got 3 of those, by the way, last week. And when you're doing that at a high level, the rest of the unit just gets fired up and they get into it. And some of these guys were critical plays. I mean, there's the third down where if Curry does not make a tackle, we are in trouble. And then you look at big boy in the middle, McDonald, man, this dude tosses people around. When he gets to the quarterback, it ain't because he came clean. It's because he literally tossed 2 grown men around in the A-gap and went ahead and got back there and handled his business. That is rare stuff. That stuff that you saw from Tyleik Williams last year, that is next level football. And I think we got 2 guys that are going to be the reason why Ohio State does make a very deep run.
Well, while the Cadens have locked down those starting roles, they're excelling. There's still a lot of rotation on that line. Now, we've seen Edric Houston, Tywone Malone Jr., and Jason Moore all taking reps, something that Malone says is going to benefit everyone on that line.
Just knowing that I got to do what I got to do to help my teammates win, you know what I'm saying? Especially at the 3-tech position with me and Edric and Jason and all. We all rotating in, we all building confidence off each other, and it doesn't matter who goes out there first. We all going to have the same standards and ball out.
All right, but the big question left unanswered is why there's so much rotation at that position. Going into the season, my breakout player on the defense was Edric Houston. I thought he was going to make that position his own, but Ben and Obi, there's a rotation here. Matt Patricia, is he just trying out new schemes? Or is it because Houston, we have a penalty problem?
Oh, I like that.
The yellow flag's been thrown a lot Edric's way so far in this young season, even after the whistle.
I think it's a combination. I'm not just trying to play it down the middle. At the end of the day, you can't beat yourself, right? And that's kind of what we're seeing when we see the yellow flag throwing like that. But Matt Patricia, he is kind of a mad scientist of sorts, and the pencil in the ear and the big beard. I mean, he's kind of living up to the hype coming in after Jim Knowles. So I love what we're doing with the rotation. Guys like Tywone Malone and Will Smith Jr., Jason Moore, but we need Edric to play at the high level that we expected coming into 2025. So I'm still optimistic, but guys, I'm not upset with the rotation. I like that.
You know what, Ben? I like the rotation also. And here's the thing: Houston is penalties. After the ball type of penalties. These are kind of discipline type things, right? And sometimes maturity, right? Here's the interesting thing: is that Ohio State has enough depth and enough talent to discipline him.
Absolutely.
At any other team, he would still be on the field.
Sure.
But because they have the talent behind him and they can kind of develop, help him learn, hey, listen, you got to be able to control your emotions during these times. They have the wealth of talent to kind of help develop him. I think if he's at another program or they were a little less talented behind him, we'd still see him in there.
Interesting.
Okay. And you know what? Inside the defensive tackle, depth was a concern coming into the season, so this is a good way for them to continue to build depth. But, Jay, with the penalty problem with Edric, though, I know you're a big stickler on those penalties. Got to play disciplined football.
I'm just big on, man, if you can't control yourself, as Obi said, emotionally, they're going to get you off the field because at the end of the day, guys, it all rolls back to the head guy.
Yep.
And if you have a highly penalized team, Ryan Day is looking, going, man, that makes me look bad as a head coach. Right. So he's going to get on Larry Johnson and go, hey, get your guys in line, and then Larry's going to get on the young boy and go, hey, we got to get you out of there until you can pay attention, focus. And as Obi said, a beautiful point, actually, there's so much depth that you can afford to have him learn from some of these other guys. And that competition, man, you see another guy go out there and get your reps, Obi, you do not want to have another guy getting your reps. So it's going to force you to be a little bit more disciplined.
And I do want to throw this in there, guys. The last year or two, I've heard a lot of whispers walking around Columbus that Larry Johnson was washed and he was done. That narrative has been out there. And I'm telling you, you look at what he's done this year, replacing that whole D-line, and you look at the body of his work and his resume. He was always the best D-line coach in the country. And for some reason, the slower-ish development maybe of a couple of his guys the last 2 years, people jumped off the bandwagon. They are back on now.
And as they should be. Coach Johnson does such a fabulous job with the defensive line. Now, he's got some of the most iconic calls in college football history.
They're showing blitz. McCord, low snap, handle, far side, caught, Maserati.
The new nicknames we think Gus Johnson will give to the 2025 standouts of the world-famous Buckeyes when we come back.
My nickname is the Predator.
Back at his 5, Chase Young has him and brings him down the defensive end.
Another one.
They're showing blitz. McCord, low snap, handle, far side, caught, Maserati. Marvin Harrison Jr.
Here's Jones dropping back. He's looking for his favorite man, Devin Smith again.
They're some of the best nicknames in college football. Chase the Predator Young, Maserati Marv, and Cardell 12-Gauge Jones. Most of them were bestowed upon the world-famous Buckeyes by Gus Johnson. So it's time for a fun exercise, crew. Each of us had picked out a current Ohio State player, and we gave them a nickname that we think Gus Johnson might give them this season. Jay, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think when Gus sees number 8 track down this quarterback from Minnesota, when he sees him track down screens and starts running around taking on blockers, a kid that is 6'4", 235 pounds, and probably going to run like a 4.5 at the combine, he will be dubbed Arvell the Beast Reese because he is absolutely unbelievable, and he's a different athletic level than every other kid on the football field, Caleb Downs included. He is a special genetic specimen. He's an absolute monster.
Love it, Jay. Obi?
You know what? Julian saying, I look at him, I think when Gus sees him, he'll see the accuracy, the way he throws the ball. And then I think his quiet demeanor. And I think his nickname will be Julian, what you saying?
Okay. What you saying? I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. What you saying? Yeah, that's what I think.
I love it, Ben.
I like it. Oh, I'm going to go Carnell. Listen for this one here. Cadillac. This guy is smooth. He is fast. He has all the swag, and most importantly, guys, he wore the number that I wore at Ohio State, number 17 right there. So I love Cardell Tate right here, but I like Cadillac. We'll call him that. Gus Johnson, I think he is just one of the best announcers. So fun to hear him call a game with Joel Klatt as well. But call it what it is this year, and we said it even last year as well. Had Jeremiah Smith not be on this football team, he's the number one receiver on any team in America. And so seeing the production that he's had. I can't say enough about Brian Hartline, the recruitment, the development. Cadillac's just the latest and greatest in a long line.
Ben, can you dance like Carnell? I saw that dance he just did.
Maybe off camera.
Oh, okay. Cornell's having a heck of a season, so I love it. Cadillac, Dave?
I am shocked to find out 17 wasn't retired when you left.
Well, what do you say?
The disrespect. I'm old enough to remember Carnell Cadillac Williams from Auburn, right?
Yes, that as well.
All right, so Caleb Downs needs a nickname. This guy's way too good, and I think we go with Terminator 2 because I can just hear it. I can hear him making a tackle for a loss. Gus's voice is going to go up, and then he's going to growl and grunt. And he's going to say, the tackle, Caleb Downs, Terminator 2. He's going to do the Gus.
That's good.
I mean,
that's good.
He needs it, man. The guy hunts people down. He has the quickest closing speed in college football. Give me Terminator 2 for Caleb Downs.
Oh, love the impression, too, man. You really sold that. Well, I'm going to go with Jeremiah Smith. This is plain and simple, guys. Him. JJ is him. He is great. And we have the Heisman campaign. Hopefully we'll see that kind of performance from him today. JJ is building off of his incredible freshman year, man. Look at that. In the end zone, his arms crossed like this, nodding. He's like, yeah, I'm him. So JJ, that's it. And guys, we'll be listening for Gus Johnson's incredible calls as the season goes on. And maybe, and you heard it first here on The Fever.
Right.
If you hear any of these nicknames, looking for a little inspiration right here. Well, great traditions don't always mean great success. We break down the history of the whiteout and why we believe the awe-inspiring spectacle may not have much substance to it. That's coming up on The Football Fever.
Oh, I was there that night. It may be loud and it may be cool to look out, but Penn State's whiteout fame isn't as powerful or as effective as you might think. The whiteout began back in 2004 with a loss to Purdue, but in 2005, the Nittany Lions took down Ohio State to earn that first whiteout win. But since then, it's been up and down. Maybe one of the most popular and well-known game day traditions in college football, but that hasn't necessarily translated to wins. In fact, Penn State is just 13-9 all-time. Of their 9 losses, 3 have come against OSU. Current coach James Franklin is 8-4 in whiteout games. His most recent loss just came against Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks. That brings us to our D.R. Horton Bulletin Board material segment. If you're a Penn State fan, who are you blaming for the struggles? By the way, this is like my junior high dances. Why am I in the end and everyone else? All right, anyway. So, all right, guys, who do we blame here? Is it James Franklin, his inability to win the big one? We've heard this for years. But do we put a little bit of the blame at Drew Aller's feet and the unrealized potential of his quarterback? Go for it.
Wow. All right, you want me to go first? Okay, let me see, guys. I'm part the C.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so James Franklin, I'm going to go over here with Coach, okay?
Okay.
So Franklin's record is now 4-21 against top 10 teams, and the Nittany Lions have now lost 15 straight games to top 6 opponents. I do think it's a blend of both, but I'm going to go with the coach because Drew Aller's a senior. He rallied. He should be able to complete and get the job done. He threw an interception to lose the game in double overtime. So that's not great. I'm also going to put that more on, Drew Aller's not living up to his capability. Again, he's a senior. He shouldn't be making these mistakes. But also, I also blame coaching for that and his development. So I'm more with James Franklin on this one.
So we have James Franklin on one end. We have Drew Aller down here and some distraught fans in the middle. So, Jay, if you had to, if this is a scale of blame, where would you stand on the Franklin end
over here.
Hey,
or
Dave,
down here?
First things first, thanks so much for bringing up that 2005 Penn State game.
Yeah, you remember that one.
That was my junior year, and Troy Smith had Tom Bahali on top of his head the entire night. Very, very ugly night. But since then, we've dominated whiteouts. Here's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
I got to go with the kid that, when the ball's being thrown more than 20 yards, has a completion percentage of under 30.
Wow.
Kind of embarrassing.
Okay.
Also a kid that was a 5-star.
stand over
Also
there.
a kid that should have been, as they say, preseason top 5 pick. Now he's played his way into the 3rd round of the NFL draft. A kid that also throws the key interception every time you are in a big game against a big opponent, and it never fails. Drew Aller, you have won yourself the reason why Penn State cannot win whiteout.
So we have one person on Drew Aller's side. We have one person down there blaming Franklin. All right, Ben, who do you blame? Where do you stand?
I'm not quite as hard. Man, you're kind of hard on that guy.
I'm sorry.
Man, I mean, it's
Players
like a
win
rolling
games.
monologue.
Coaches can't go out there and throw the ball.
I feel it.
what do
Well,
you
I'll
say?
play the other side then. I'm going to
Okay,
go
he's
more
going with
James
me.
Franklin. Listen, he's a very good coach. I've said this for a long time in regards to Penn State. They're very, very good. Are they one of the elite programs in college football? No, we just have not seen that. You're right. 13-9 when you talk about the whiteouts, that's not up to par. What are you going to say? We've all played there. It is one of the most intimidating elements in college football, but a lot of time, as a player, you raise your game when you're in that element, and that's certainly what we've seen from the Buckeyes that have gotten the best from James Franklin and the Nittany Lions recently.
Obi, right now you're in the middle. This is on the fence. So are you going to pick away?
Well, you know what? I'm figuring out who actually feels worse in this situation, Coach James Franklin or Drew Aller. I think it's Drew Aller. I think he feels worse in this situation because I feel like he hasn't met the ball. He hasn't lived up to what they expect when you're throwing picks. And the way he throws picks, it's like he wasn't even looking. It was like a bad decision. And that is why I would say it's more Aller.
Okay, so over the past 2 years.
Tiebreaker.
Over the past 2 years.
Right.
I would go this way because of the unrealized potential. But, pivot with me, camera 3. James Franklin has predated Drew Aller, and I really don't want to stand next to Jay again on live TV because he makes me look like I'm 5'2".
Wow, yeah.
So for all those reasons, I go about 70-30 James Franklin.
Yeah.
But I do think Drew Aller had a chance to beat Oregon. He threw a pick. He had a chance last year to win the playoff semifinal and go to the title game. He threw a pick. So I do think over the last couple of years, it's a little more
No
on
quicker
that
way
end.
to play a whiteout than that.
Is it his loyalty that gets him in trouble?
A bit.
You think?
A bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this was his 5-star kid out of Northeast Ohio, and it has not panned out as of
5-star,
yet.
yeah.
All right, we have more football fever coming up next. Well, if you tuned into the Football Fever pregame show last week, you may have seen what was supposed to be a debate between Jay Richardson and Obi Stillwell, but instead, we got two congressmen who decided to filibuster me on live television. But now that both Obi and Jay are here in studio, we'll have an actual debate, and I'm a proper moderator. So, guys, the topic this week is defense. These silver bullets, the 2025 silver bullets, do you think they are better than the 2002 unit that beat the Miami Hurricanes to win a national title? Jay, I will begin with you.
Well, as somebody that was a member of that team and
go.
it contributed absolutely nothing because I was redshirted, I got to say.
The ring fits the same.
Correct. It's absolutely the 2002 Buckeyes, and I could get into names. You know, obviously you had the legendary Will Smith, who was a first-round pick, and you had Mike Doss, who was a three-time All-American. You had all these amazing players in the middle, Darian Scott and Tim Anderson and Dustin Fox and C. Grant, who's the best vocalist in Ohio State history. Sure. What it comes down to is what did that defense produce, which was a national championship. There's no arguing that. And then it comes down to averaging. Again, you're having teams, you're holding them to right around, I think it was 9 points a game. Again, that is including the Miami Hurricanes. That is a long season, a big body of work, a team that had to win games on defense. I mean, you're talking about critical interceptions, critical stops. I remember Will Allen getting a critical pick against NC State, games that are only won by the defense because the offense was still kind of stuck. You know, Tressel offense was 3 yards in the cloud of dust a little bit, you know, other than the Holy Buckeye where he went for it to Mike Jenkins, which was huge against Purdue. Every single one of those games was won by the defense. And I just think when you look at the numbers, you look at the players that defense had, I think 3 or 4 first-rounders and 11 draft picks total, which is unbelievable. You got to give it to the 02 Buckeyes because rings matter.
The patience on you to let him do that to you again, second straight week. Now it is your turn.
No, this is a get back from last week.
Can we go again? Let's go.
Your turn.
So here it is. You know what? Men lie. Women lie, numbers don't lie. So I respect that. I respect what he's saying. And plus, you're looking at historical actuals. You're not just speculating. But this particular team, I think there's something special about them because they're not just chatting about how much they trust the coach. And I've talked to the players the last 5 years, and Jim Knowles, he's a guru and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, hey, he's going to just let us play. He's going to just allow us to go out there and play free. And guess what? And he never did. He never did. They were always handcuffed by some schematic scheme that he had that didn't allow them to just be athletes. I think that this team is one of the most athletic teams that you will ever see put on the field in a defensive position. I believe that the Buckeyes team is not only are they athletic, not only are they smart, but they are actually just allowing these guys to play. Just like the 2002 team, I agree with you. I mean, you have historical actuals. It was a great, amazing team. But this team, the potential of this particular defense, I think they're very similar positions. I don't think that the 2000 team came with a whole lot of fanfare. I know Mike Doss had come back, right? They thought he was going to go to the NFL.
Chris Gamble started on offense and defense. First round pick, the most athletic guy on the team. Are you
exactly? And guess what? Guess who could do that now?
Who?
Caleb Downs.
No.
So anyhow, people, I apologize.
Not
that you
the same
have to
place that Chris Gamble was. I'm sorry.
And
I love you, Caleb.
Caleb Downs will be, if they let that man play on both sides of the ball, he will go down as one of the most athletic guys that ever put on this uniform. Terminator 2.
Terminator 2. That's the Gus Johnson voice. Yeah. All right. Well, that was a good idea last week and this week, but we're not going to let you guys can't handle these debates. You guys get too fired up. All right. Coming up after the break, our keys to the game and final thoughts ahead of this Week 6 matchup against Minnesota. The Football Fever. They're friends. We'll be right back. Time now for the Hyundai Keys to the Game. My first one is Break the Drake. Minnesota quarterback Drake Lindsey's only been sacked 5 times all season. The Caden twins had 5 sacks alone last week against Washington. Trench warfare. The Golden Gophers, 5th in the nation, allowing just 65 rushing yards per game. Ohio State offensive line better bring it. That's Philip Daniels against his old team. And finally, when in doubt, you air it out. Minnesota wants you to run it, so let Julian Sayin drop back and sling it. Last week, he didn't throw a single pass 20 yards downfield. That's what Washington gave him. I like to see a few deep shots tonight. All right, time now for our prime sportsbook picks of the day. I'm going to take Iowa State in a slight upset over Cincinnati. The Bearcats are favored, but I think the Cyclones stay undefeated. All right, picks of the day here. Ben, who do you have?
I have Texas over Florida in this one, guys. I think poor Arch, man. I think he's maybe one of the most, was not overrated, but just so much hype going into this year. Let him kind of settle into his position.
Overrated.
I guess if Obi's going to call him overrated, he certainly didn't play well against us, but it seems like he's building. Sark, we know he's a great coach, great recruiter. Seems like Texas, they're building.
Man, call it what it is. The kid's overrated. I'm going to go with the biggest matchup in the ACC, and that's going to be Miami versus FSU. I just think FSU does not have it in the trenches where Miami does, and Miami, by the way, has this kid that they call Hurricane Bane, a defensive end number 4. Dude is an absolute monster, will be a top 5 pick. Give me Miami.
Obi?
I'm taking Alabama over Vanderbilt, but I'll be honest with you, if it was at Vanderbilt instead of Alabama, I would have took Vanderbilt.
Vandy taking a lot of teams by surprise this year. I'm going with UNC over Clemson. North Carolina versus Clemson. This is a fun matchup. 2 founding members of the ACC, 2 tradition-rich head coaches, one with multiple national championships, the other one multiple Super Bowls. So, but they both haven't lived up to expectations, these 2 teams. But I'm going to take Bill Belichick in North Carolina.
One's got a way younger girlfriend, though.
I'll tell you what, man.
Very true.
If Dabo loses to Belichick, that's going to be a post-game newser I'm watching. Remember, you must be 21 and over to play on Prime Sportsbook. If you think you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Final thoughts here, guys. I'll start with you, Ben.
I think this is the Julian Sayin show tonight. Primetime in the Horseshoe. He's going to have an amazing game. 80% completion percentage. Dare I say he's around that again this evening.
Obi, what you got?
Stop trying to set up Jeremiah Smith. Just give him the ball. Just give him the ball.
Okay, love it.
Go for it, Jay. Get in there.
Hey, Brian, Ryan, start fast. Offense needs to get going right away.
No touchdowns in the red zone, and I actually think they'd double down on that. They hold them field goals like they did to Washington.
Well, we can't wait to be under the lights tonight. The Buckeyes trying to stay undefeated in the Big Ten home opener. Join us tonight, live post-game show on the Football Fever.